Welcome back to Mae Sot, Thailand, and it is Sunday, October 25th. And if you look all around the video screen, look in all the four corners of this video, you won't see a watermark. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why. The short answer as to why is pretty obvious, of course. I was using some free versions of video editing apps. I was using PowerDirector for a while, then I switched to KineMaster, then I went back to PowerDirector, and there was always a watermark in the corner because the app I was using was free and the company got a little bit of free advertising in exchange. But I decided to pay for the premium version of the app. And one of the benefits of paying for the paid version, paying for a license, is that they remove the watermark. So it's gone now. The other big advantage to paying for the premium version of one of these apps is, of course, that you get access to higher resolutions. With the free versions of both KineMaster and PowerDirector, I was limited to video at the resolution 720p, which is pretty low these days. I could see on the app 1080p and 4K, but they're locked out. And if I remember right, on PowerDirector, they even had a little crown on them, like a little golden crown, which kind of gave the impression that you had to pay money. You know, you had to become royalty. And when you did, they unlock the higher resolutions and that crown disappears, and then you're able to use 1080p and 4K. And that's interesting because right now I'm actually shooting on my GoPro in 2.7K, which is kind of an intermediate step between 1080p and 4K. I'm not really that familiar with 2.7K because no one ever talks about it. I didn't even know what to call it when I saw it on the menu. It says, okay, we got 4K, 1080p. I guess we just call this 2.7K. Unclear at this point whether shooting in 2.7K is any advantage to me, considering I'm shooting on a GoPro, editing on a smartphone, and just uploading to YouTube. It may make no difference in the end to the quality of the video. All it might mean is that the file sizes are suddenly huge. And if I'm shooting in 2.7K, you might wonder, well, why not go all the way? Why not shoot in 4K, the best of the best? Well, as far as I can make out, when you shoot in 4K on the GoPro, you have to shoot in wide angle. There's no linear option in 4K. So the image will actually be much, much wider. And that can be very distracting because straight lines are curved and look a bit weird. Plus, in 4K, there's no stabilization on the GoPro. So I thought I'd try 2.7K, which I can still shoot in linear mode, which is a bit narrower and I think more pleasing to the human eye anyway. And it is still stabilized as far as I know. Oddly enough, though, I did a test the other day shooting in 4K, and I got a big warning sign when I switched to 4K saying no stabilization, and yet the footage looked great to me. It really looks smooth and stabilized anyway, so I'm not entirely sure that there is no stabilization because it looks stabilized to me. I'll have to do another test. I can't remember if I specified yet which one I bought, whether I purchased a license for KineMaster or Power Director, but I ended up choosing Power Director, and there was a pretty simple reason for that. If I paid for a license in KineMaster, that would also unlock 1080p and 4K video options, but my phone is somewhat outdated, and even though KineMaster can process 1080p and 4K, it can't do it on my phone. KineMaster tells me that my phone is not powerful enough to do it, but with Power Director, it can. So that's why I went with Power Director, basically. One funny thing is that even with Power Director, I couldn't be 100% sure that everything would work after I paid for the license. When you go into all of the information about the app, there will be a little asterisk there, and it says 4K, but then you read the fine print, and it says 4K if your phone's hardware can handle it, and for 1080p if your phone can handle it. So of course I want to find out, well, can my phone handle it? Can I find out before I pay for the license? But again, there's really no way to do that. You just kind of have to take a chance, buy it, and then test it, and that's kind of the way these things go. The thing that I really wanted to talk about with Power Director was not really the technical side of it, but it was sort of my experience of the marketing. I found that really kind of interesting. And it's nothing against Power Director at all. It was just interesting for me to go through the process of doing the research and then deciding to buy it, and then how all products these days kind of work the same way. They use all the same little marketing techniques and the little marketing tricks. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So it's kind of what I wanted to talk about. For one thing, you can't just buy Power Director for Android. I think they call it Power Director Mobile. They sell it on a subscription basis. And of course, everybody hates subscription purchases, but that's how the world works these days. You don't really have a choice. Seems like everything is on subscription now. And you can choose between, of course, paying by the month, which is $4 or $5 a month, or you can pay for 3 months at a time, or you can pay for 1 year. And of course, Power Director, they want you to pay for a year. That is the best deal for them. So they use every trick in the book to kind of funnel you towards paying for the 1 year subscription. And one way they do that is quite interesting. They bundled the 7-day free trial with the 1 year subscription. As I said, I wasn't entirely sure that Power Director would work for me, and I wanted to test it before buying it, so I was kind of looking around for the 7-day free trial to give it a try, and then you can decide whether you want to buy it or not. But what they did was the 7-day free trial is connected to the 1 year subscription. And I guess if you sign up for the 7-day free trial, you can probably cancel it before it slides into the 1 year subscription. But when you read the fine print, it's not clear that that's what happens. It says basically, if you sign up for the 7-day free trial, at the end of your free trial, we will bill your credit card for $49.99 or $69.99 or whatever the price was. I don't remember the prices offhand. So I was looking at that and I thought, I'd like to try the 7-day free trial, but it sounds like as soon as I click on that button and get the free trial, I'm just going to slide into the 1 year subscription whether I want to or not. That didn't make any sense, but there's nothing in the language that made that clear. But anyway, there was no way to get a free trial without also semi-committing to the 1-year annual subscription. So that's kind of clever marketing, a little bit sneaky perhaps. On top of that, they make the 1-year subscription price look better than it really is. It's really kind of strange because they'll say, this is the price, but here's the price we'll sell it to you at. So if you choose the 1-year subscription, you save 53% or 60% or something like that. But those numbers, they're just pulling them out of thin air. It's like me taking out my wallet and saying to you, well, I will sell you this wallet and the regular price is $100, but I will sell it to you for $10 right now, so you will save 90%. But of course, that's just ridiculous. I'm just making up the numbers. There is no regular price of $100. The regular price is $10. And they just invent this higher price to make it look like you're saving 60% if you choose this. It would make sense if the savings was compared to the 3-month price or the month-by-month price, but they don't word it that way. They just say, this is the price, but if you pay for a year, you save 60%. And it's a little bit sneaky too. The math doesn't really add up. And of course, the pressure to buy a license for PowerDirector is there all the time while you are using the free version. Every time you click on a button, it seems a big window pops up giving you the option to purchase the license, whether for 1 month, 1 year, or 3 months at a time. And of course, when you do pay a subscription fee, whatever it is, by the month, by the 3 months, or by the 1 year, the default setting is always to automatically renew. That's the default. So as soon as you say, okay, I will buy a 1-month subscription, you've automatically been entered into an automatic renewal system, so that at the end of the month, you're automatically billed for a 2nd month. And of course, if you want to cancel, you have to cancel within a certain number of days before the end of the month. And of course, they're hoping you'll forget. And we all do. Everybody forgets. We meant to cancel, and then the next thing we know, oh, we got billed for another 3 months because we didn't do it, within the time frame that they specified. So yeah, they're very sneaky. And even within the program itself, there are the features you can use as part of the free app, and then there are the features you can use if you pay for a subscription, but they're mixed in together. So even as you're using the free app, you keep seeing all these buttons, things like video stabilizer. And I think, oh wow, I can stabilize this video because it's a bit shaky. So I click on the stabilize button thinking, okay, I can fix that. But then a window pops up. Oh, this feature is only available on the paid version. If you wish to stabilize video, please purchase a subscription. And PowerDirector is a little bit more honest than most because all of these premium features are marked with that little crown. But I've used programs in the past where they didn't mark them in any way. There was no way to know which features were premium and which were free. So you're constantly using the program, clicking on things, trying to do things in the menu system, and then you get the little pop-up saying, oh, I'm sorry, that's that's locked out. You have to pay for a subscription in order to use that feature, which is fine. I mean, it's a business. They have to have a product to sell you, and they're trying to convince you to buy it. But as you're using it, as I said, this hard sell to buy it is there, constantly being thrown at you. And it beats down your resistance. And eventually you give up and you say, okay, I'll buy the premium version just so I can stop seeing this constant flow of ads every time I try to do something. Another angle to all this is that even if you make the decision to purchase this product, any kind of modern product in fact, you often don't end up with anything tangible. It's not like Power Director is going to send me a CD in the mail with the program on it, or a DVD, or anything at all. I get nothing. I click on this button, and then after that, I don't really know what is going to happen, because I haven't had a lot of experience doing this. It's like a Google Play subscription, and you're paying through Google Pay, which again is linked to your credit card. And that's basically all that happens. And there's no instructions about what will take place after you pay, and you just kind of have to go on faith. And I had all these questions in my mind. For example, okay, I'm going to pay for Power Director. How is it going to show up on my phone? Like, do I have to do something to remove the watermark? Do I have to go online and reinstall it? Do I have to go into a menu? Like, what do I have to do? And there was really no information about that. You just have to know that it's going to happen automatically. And I wanted to know, well, can I put it on two phones? I'm paying for the license through my Google account, but I have two phones linked to that Google account. So will the premium version of Power Director show up on both phones? What if it doesn't work on this phone? Can I switch it to the other phone? Or what if I buy a new phone, which I may very well do? Now what do I do? Is my copy linked to this phone? How can I move it from this phone to my new phone? Or what if my phone is stolen and I can't delete it from my old phone? Can I then use it on a new phone? I have all these questions, and try as you might, you're not going to find an answer to any of these questions. All you can do is take a chance. You pay for it, and then you hope for the best. You just see what happens. And in this case, I should say that everything worked out fine. It worked out better than I expected. When I paid for the subscription, I went for the 3-month subscription, which was $14 US for 3 months. It just worked. Everything unlocked automatically. The watermark disappeared automatically, and the premium version showed up on both of my phones automatically. On my Xiaomi Redmi Prime, I got the 4K option, but on that was unlocked on my Xiaomi, and the 1080p option. But on my Motorola, 1080p was unlocked, but then there was no 4K option at all. And I assume that's because my Motorola has a much weaker processor and it can't handle 4K anyway. So all these things happened and everything was fine, but there was no way I could have predicted that it was going to work out this way in advance. And I find that is so true of so much technology these days, that you don't get an answer and you can't find an answer. All you can do is a series of experiments to see for yourself, to answer your own question. I had one very funny example of how you do have to test everything yourself, like right after I bought Power Director, because I wanted to do an experiment to see whether I could really export at 1080p on my Xiaomi phone. Plus, I now had the option of exporting at a high bit rate. So I thought, hey, let's do a 1080p export at a higher bit rate and see what happens. I took one of the videos I've been working on and then I just exported it as a test, and it went through the entire processing, the exporting, for about 35 or 40 minutes, I think. And then at the end of it, I went to my phone, then I picked it up, and I had a big error message. You know, exporting failed. And then it won't tell you why it failed. It just says that it failed. And then there's a little note that says, maybe it's because there's some sort of a file in your video that Power Director does not support. And then it lists all the file types that it supports, whether photographs or video or audio, anything like that. And they said that's probably what the problem is. So I thought, okay, I guess I have to figure out for myself where the error was coming from, because Power Director won't tell me. So I built my own little test file, and I included one type of video file, did an export, and it worked fine. So okay, so that file type is not the problem. Then I chose another file type, did an export at 1080p at a high bit rate. It worked fine. So okay, that file type is not a problem. I think I had a mix of 7 or 8 different file types in that video, and I did a test with every single file. I created a brand new video containing that type of file just to test to see whether it was the file type that was causing the problem. You know, like a JPEG file or a PNG file or an MP4 file, or and yeah, all these different video and photograph file types. And every test that I made, it worked perfectly. So this message that I probably had an invalid file type didn't seem to make sense. So I'm still trying to figure out why the export failed. And then later on, I did an actual export of a real file, and it worked perfectly, and it came to almost exactly 3.84 gigabytes. And that's when the light bulb went off. What had happened was that on my original test, by choosing high bit rate, the final video file output was larger than 4 gigabytes. And the file storage system in Android, it can't handle files larger than 4 gigabytes. That's kind of the maximum. And that's why the export failed. It did the export for 35 or 40 minutes, got all the way to the end, and then as soon as the file size went above 4 gigabytes, it shut down and returned an error message. But Power Director couldn't tell me that that was the cause of the error. I had to figure that out for myself by like 2 hours of testing. And I find that that's kind of the way the modern world works these days. You sort of have to be a real troubleshooter. You have to figure things out on your own. I keep saying that all these little tricks are part of the modern world, like part of the year 2020. But now that I think about it, stuff like this has been going on for quite a long time. I remember it was probably 15 years ago now. I was fiddling around with iTunes. I had iTunes installed on my home computer when I was living in Taiwan. And since then, I've gotten rid of iTunes, that whole program. You want to talk about problems? That was a nightmare. So I stopped using iTunes to manage my music library. But at the time, I was using iTunes on a PC. And for some reason or another, I wanted to buy some music, which I had never done before. So I went into the Apple Store, the iStore, whatever it was called, and I bought a couple of albums. And just like with Power Director, you don't actually get an album. Like, nobody sends you a CD in the mail. All that happens is that iTunes downloads the digital file to your PC. And I bought these albums. So to this day, I assume I still own those albums. I paid for them, but I don't have them. I don't know where they are. I guess I would have to go onto a PC, install iTunes, and then re-download those albums. Like, if I went into my iTunes account, signed in, there would still be proof that I paid for those albums. I guess so, but I'm just assuming that that is what would happen. So it's so different from the old days when you bought something, you got something physical and you owned it, and then you could sell it to somebody else or give it to someone else if you wanted to. But these days, none of that is a possibility anymore. That's not to say I think this is going to happen. My experience so far with Google Pay and subscriptions is that it is all rather straightforward. I went to my Google account, and then I went to the listing for Power Director, and it clearly shows that I own it now. And then there's a nice sign there that says, if you want to manage your subscription, click here. And it takes you a nice simple window on your Google account that lists all your subscriptions, and then you can manage them from there. See how much you're paying, the frequency of payment, and the button to cancel the subscription. So it is, as far as I can tell, on the up and up, and there really are no problems. I'm just sort of thinking about all these things that could happen, and just the unusual feeling, the unusual nature of all these modern transactions that we get involved with. And in the end, I have to say that I'm very pleased with Power Director and with the way everything worked out. In fact, it was less expensive than I anticipated. When you pay for a 3-month period, as I said, it's $14 for 3 months, and I get to use it for 3 months, and I can cancel at any time. I'm very confident about that. And I like the program. The program works great. There are a whole range of free video editing apps out there that are completely free, and they may not even have a watermark, but they're different from Power Director. They're a little bit more childish, like a little bit more like a toy, where you just throw in a bunch of clips and then it automatically puts them together with a template for you. Power Director and KineMaster are more like full-featured video editing programs with a timeline and then all kinds of layers where you can add layers of audio, multiple layers of video and effects and transitions and photos and stack them all up on each other. It's a very powerful program. Not only that, there is a lot more in the premium version than I expected. My goal was basically, I think, just twofold. All I wanted to do was get access to 1080p video and get rid of the watermark. Those are the only two things I wanted, and I thought those would be the only two things I would end up getting. But when you get the premium subscription, you actually get a lot more than that. I was quite pleasantly surprised. You also get quite a large music library. I think they have a deal with Shutterstock. So you get Shutterstock photo libraries, Shutterstock video libraries, and Shutterstock music libraries. And they're quite extensive. I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly how many songs are available through this Shutterstock database, but I'm guessing there has to be thousands of them. Many hundreds, and I think it creeps up into the thousands. There's a lot of songs. And I think they do have a little bit of that recognizable feeling to them. You can kind of know when somebody's using free YouTube music like I do, or free Shutterstock music. It has a certain cheap sound to it, perhaps. But they suit me just fine. And to have access to thousands of new songs, not only songs, but sound effects. Every kind of sound effect you can imagine, people doing things, animals, weapons, vehicles, daily activities, all kinds of sound effects, plus all these video clips. The video clips from Shutterstock are not that great. They look like, and a lot of the photos from Shutterstock aren't that great. They look very corporate, very much like they came out of a Sears catalog or something. But there are some really interesting video clips from another company called Pixabay, I think. That also comes with the premium subscription. And a lot of those video clips are kind of cool, and I may end up using them from time to time. Plus, you get a lot more title sequences and effects and different things. So the premium package is, to me, it seems well worth the money, and so far I'm really happy that I did it. Just a last note about Mesa to end the video. I was checking Facebook this morning, and there was a message from a local expat on the What's Happening in Mesa group saying that the lockdown was going to end on October 27th, which is this Tuesday. So for the last little while, we've been under a kind of lockdown here with schools closed, temples, mosques closed, restaurants and coffee shops limited to takeaway only, all those sorts of restrictions. But apparently on Tuesday, this will come to an end for the most part. And I guess I can go back to a coffee shop from time to time, and that will be nice. The lockdown has disrupted my newfound cafe lifestyle. So that's good news that we're coming out of the lockdown. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing.